In the quiet town of Lakewood, 9-year-old Emily Walker's laughter echoed through the local cinema every Saturday afternoon, a cherished ritual that defined her childhood, until the night she vanished without a trace, leaving behind nothing but an empty seat and decades of questions. 22 years later, as a stunning acceptance speech captivates the Cannes Film Festival, the world will discover that some mysteries don't end, they transform. If stories like this fascinate you, please take a moment to subscribe and join our community of mystery enthusiasts. The summer of 1998 painted Lakewood with golden hues and endless possibilities. For Emily Walker, each day unfolded like the pages of the storybooks she treasured. With her wide, curious eyes and a crown of untamed curls that bounced as she moved, Emily was the kind of child who collected moments rather than things. Pressing flowers between dictionary pages, memorizing dialogue from classic films, and sketching the faces of strangers at the park with remarkable precision. "Mom, do you think I could be in the movies someday?" Emily would ask Laura Walker, her voice carrying the innocent conviction that only childhood allows. Laura would smile, tucking a wayward curl behind her daughter's ear. "With that imagination of yours, the world better get ready." The Walker home sat 3 blocks from Lakewood Elementary, where Emily excelled in creative writing and art. Her 4th-grade teacher, Miss Pearson, had recently nominated one of Emily's short stories for a regional youth writing contest. The tale, about a girl who could step into movie screens and become part of the story, had earned her recognition beyond the classroom walls. "That child sees the world differently," Miss Pearson had told Laura and David during the spring parent-teacher conference. "There's something special there, a gift." David Walker worked double shifts at the Lakewood manufacturing plant to ensure Emily could attend art camp each summer. His calloused hands, stained with machine oil, would carefully hang each new drawing Emily brought home on the refrigerator door, creating a rotating gallery of her evolving talent. "My little director," he'd call her, ruffling her hair as she described elaborate scenes from the movies playing in her mind. Emily's bedroom walls told her story better than words could. Movie posters carefully selected from the local video store, sketches of costumes she designed for imaginary characters, and a shelf lined with journals filled with stories and dialogue. A small camcorder, a birthday gift from her parents who had saved for months, sat on her desk, her most prized possession. On weekends, Emily and her best friend Zoe would create elaborate backyard productions, casting neighborhood kids in roles for homemade films. Emily always directed, her natural leadership evident as she arranged scenes with the meticulous care of someone twice her age. "Cut, let's try again, but this time remember you're scared of the monster, not just saying you are," she would instruct, displaying a surprising understanding of emotional authenticity. The local Starlight Cinema became Emily's sanctuary. The aging single-screen theater, with its faded marquee and creaking seats, was where the Walkers spent many Saturday evenings. The owner, Mr. Grayson, an elderly man who had run the theater since the 1960s, often saved Emily a small popcorn when she arrived. "Here comes my future filmmaker," he'd announce, as the bell above the door chimed, announcing the Walkers' arrival. Emily would beam, accepting the treat with the reverence of someone receiving a precious gift. "What's playing next week, Mr. Grayson?" she would ask, already planning her return. For Laura and David, these simple moments defined their family life, modest but filled with love and promise. Their small 2-bedroom home might lack luxury, but Emily never wanted for attention or encouragement. Medium-low pitch, clear and confident delivery at 180 WPM. Maintain a suspenseful and serious tone, but keep the pacing smooth and natural. Avoid over-enunciating or drawing out words. Use light, natural pauses at commas, slightly longer at periods. For quoted dialogue, shift to a more conversational tone, appropriate to each character. Keep the narration compelling, focused, and immersive from beginning to end. Laura worked part-time at the local library, often bringing home books she thought might spark her daughter's imagination. David coached Emily's soccer team in the spring, though Emily preferred creating the team banners to actually playing. "She's going places," Laura would tell David at night after tucking Emily in. "Our girl is meant for something big." Neither could have known how prophetic and painful those words would become. Saturday, June 13th, 1998, began like any other summer weekend. Emily woke early, spent the morning working on a new story, then helped Laura bake cookies for the church fundraiser. After lunch, she rode bikes with Zoe around the neighborhood, their laughter trailing behind them like ribbons in the warm air. "Can we see a movie tonight?" Emily asked at dinner, her fork pushing around the last few peas on her plate. "The Princess Adventure just started at the Starlight." Laura looked at David, who nodded with a smile. "I suppose we could manage that." Emily's face lit up. "I'm going to wear my special movie shirt." She raced upstairs to change into her favorite T-shirt, navy blue with silver stars that she insisted brought good luck at the movies. The evening air was heavy with the promise of summer rain as the Walker family walked the 5 blocks to the Starlight Cinema. Emily skipped ahead, turning occasionally to urge her parents to hurry. "The previews are the best part," she insisted, her excitement palpable. The theater was busier than usual that night, a rare occurrence for the struggling business. Mr. Grayson greeted them warmly at the ticket counter, handing Emily a small box of chocolate-covered raisins, her favorite. "Special treat for my special customer," he winked. The family found seats in the middle row, Emily settling between her parents as the lights dimmed. The familiar anticipation washed over her face, illuminated by the screen's glow. For the first 45 minutes, everything was normal. Emily whispered observations about camera angles and costume designs, Laura hushed her gently, and David smiled at their exchange. At 8:17 p.m., Emily leaned over to Laura. "I need to use the bathroom," she whispered. "Want me to come with you?" Laura asked, already reaching her purse. Emily rolled her eyes dramatically. "Mom, I'm 9, not a baby." Laura hesitated, but nodded. "Straight there and back, okay?" "Promise." Emily slipped past her father's knees and disappeared up the darkened aisle. 5 minutes passed, then 10. At 15 minutes, Laura's maternal instinct flared. "She's been gone too long," she whispered to David, who nodded and rose from his seat. They checked the women's restroom, empty. The men's restroom, no sign of Emily. The lobby, the small arcade area, behind the concession stand, nothing. Mr. Grayson hadn't seen her leave. Panic began to rise in Laura's throat. She wouldn't just wander off, she insisted, her voice rising as David flagged down the teenage usher to help search. By 9 p.m., the Lakewood Police Department had been called. Officer Martinez arrived first, followed by 2 patrol cars. The movie was stopped, lights raised. Every corner of the theater was searched. Storage rooms, the projection booth, even the dumpsters behind the building. 63 moviegoers were questioned. No one had seen a little girl in a Navy Star shirt leave the theater. No one had noticed anything unusual. "She was just going to the bathroom," Laura repeated, her voice hollow as she clutched Emily's abandoned box of chocolate-covered raisins. "She promised to come right back." The initial search expanded to a 5-block radius, then 10. Volunteers from the neighborhood joined police officers, calling Emily's name into the darkness. The summer rain that had threatened all evening finally began to fall, washing away any potential evidence outside the theater. Detective James Reed arrived at 10:45 p.m., his blonde hair darkened by the rain, his serious eyes taking in the scene with professional detachment. He interviewed the Walkers, Mr. Grayson, the theater staff, and key witnesses. He requested the security footage from the single camera in the theater lobby. "Is there anything unusual going on in Emily's life?" he asked the distraught parents. "Any changes in behavior, new friends, problems at school?" Laura shook her head vehemently. "She's happy. She's always happy. She just wanted to see a princess movie." The footage from the security camera revealed Emily walking into the lobby at 8:18 p.m., heading toward the restrooms, located in a short hallway. The camera angle didn't cover the hallway itself or the back exit door located there. Emily never reappeared on the lobby footage. The back door, which led to an alley behind the theater, was found unlocked, a violation of fire code that Mr. Grayson couldn't explain. "It's always kept locked," he insisted, his weathered face pale with shock. "Always." By morning, Emily's school photo was being distributed throughout Lakewood. Local news stations interrupted regular programming with her description. 4'3", approximately 65 pounds, brown curly hair, brown eyes, wearing a navy blue t-shirt with silver stars, denim shorts, and white sneakers. Notable features included a small scar on her left eyebrow from a bicycle accident the previous year. The following days brought an intensity of activity that Lakewood had never experienced. The FBI joined the investigation. Volunteers coordinated search parties. Churches held prayer vigils. Psychics offered their services. The Walker home became command central, with Laura and David moving through the motions of cooperation while privately crumbling under the weight of fear. "She's smart," David told anyone who would listen. "She knows our phone number, our address. She knows to find a police officer if she's lost." But as days turned into weeks, hope began to fade. The security footage revealed nothing new, despite enhancement attempts. No witnesses came forward with credible sightings. The investigation expanded to neighboring states, but the trail, if there ever was one, had gone cold. The most devastating moment came 6 weeks after the disappearance, when Detective Reed sat down with the Walkers in their living room, where Emily's artwork still hung untouched. "We're not giving up," he assured them, his voice gentle but realistic. "But I need to prepare you for the possibility that we may not find answers quickly. Sometimes these cases take time." "How much time?" Laura asked, her voice barely audible. Detective Reed couldn't meet her eyes. "I can't say." The Walkers established a foundation in Emily's name. They appeared on national television shows. They consulted private investigators when police resources were inevitably redirected to new cases. They maintained her room exactly as she had left it that Saturday morning, her half-finished story still open on her desk, waiting for an ending. 1 year passed, then 5. On the 10th anniversary of Emily's disappearance, the case received renewed attention when a documentary filmmaker featured her story in a series about unsolved disappearances. The publicity generated new tips, all of which led nowhere. Lakewood changed over the years. The Starlight Cinema closed in 2003, unable to compete with the new multiplex at the mall. Mr. Grayson passed away the following year, taking any undiscovered knowledge of that night with him. Emily's elementary school was renovated, her classroom now unrecognizable. Even the Walker home transformed. Laura eventually packed away most of Emily's things, though her room remained untouched behind a perpetually closed door. David threw himself into work, eventually becoming plant manager. Laura quit the library, unable to bear the children's section where Emily had spent so many happy hours. She focused instead on the foundation, speaking at schools about child safety. Their marriage endured, though strained by grief that manifested in different ways. David's stoic silence versus Laura's need to keep Emily's memory alive in conversation. They remained in Lakewood, unable to leave the last place their daughter had been seen. "What if she comes home and we're not here?" Laura would ask whenever David suggested moving. The world continued turning. Technology advanced. Social media emerged. Emily's case file gathered dust in the Lakewood Police Department archives, periodically reviewed by new detectives but yielding no breakthroughs. Until 22 years later, when everything changed. The call came on a Tuesday morning in April 2020. Detective James Reed, now nearing retirement and graying at the temples, phoned the Walkers with news that seemed impossible. "We need to meet," he said, his typically measured voice carrying an unfamiliar urgency. "There's been a development." Laura's heart stopped, then raced. After 22 years, those words could mean only one thing. Either Emily had been found, or her remains had. She called David at work, her voice shaking as she relayed the message. They sat together in the same living room where they had received countless updates over the years, each one leading nowhere. Detective Reed arrived with a file folder and a younger colleague, Detective Michelle Santos. During the renovation of the old Starlight Cinema building, construction workers discovered something in a wall cavity near the back exit, Reed explained, his voice carefully neutral. A hard drive, sealed in plastic. David's brow furrowed. A hard drive? From what? It appears to be from the theater's security system. Mr. Grayson had apparently installed a secondary camera covering the back hallway and exit, one we weren't aware of during the original investigation. It wasn't connected to the main security system. Laura leaned forward, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles whitened. And it shows something? After all this time, it still works? Detective Santos nodded. Our tech team was able to recover the footage. It's degraded but visible. Reed opened the folder, revealing several grainy printouts. These are stills from the recovered video. They show Emily entering the hallway at 8:19 p.m., consistent with the lobby footage we already had. He placed another image on the coffee table. This shows Emily approaching the bathroom door. The next image made Laura gasp. It showed Emily standing near the exit door, looking up at someone just out of frame. There was someone else there, Reed confirmed, answering the question before they could ask it. The angle doesn't capture their face, but you can see an arm here. He pointed to a blurry shape extending from the edge of the frame, reaching toward Emily. The final image showed the exit door open, Emily's figure visible from behind, as she appeared to be leaving with the unidentified person. She didn't leave alone, David whispered, his voice breaking for the first time in years. No, Reed confirmed, she didn't. Laura stared at the images, her mind racing. Can you enhance these? See who it was? We're trying, Santos replied. The technology available now is significantly better than what we had in 1998. We've sent the footage to the FBI's Digital Forensics Lab. Reed hesitated before continuing. There's something else. When we reviewed the complete footage, we noticed Emily didn't appear frightened or resistant. She seemed to recognize or at least trust whoever was there. Someone she knew, David said, the implication hanging heavy in the air. Possibly, Reed nodded. We're reopening the investigation with this new evidence. We'll be interviewing former theater employees, reviewing old witness statements with this new context.
For the first time in 22 years, the Walkers felt something dangerous stir within them, hope. The development sparked renewed media interest in the case. Local news covered the story, which was quickly picked up by national outlets. Emily's school photo, alongside an age progression image created years earlier, once again circulated widely. 3 weeks later, the FBI lab returned their enhanced analysis. The mysterious figure remained largely obscured, but they could now determine it was a woman with dark hair, approximately 5'6" tall, wearing what appeared to be a theater uniform. We've identified 3 female employees who worked at the Starlight that summer, Detective Santos explained during their next meeting. We're tracking them down now. The first 2 former employees were quickly located and interviewed. Both expressed shock at the development and cooperated fully, providing alibis for the night in question that checked out. The third, Vanessa Miller, who had been an 18-year-old concession stand worker, proved more difficult to find. She seems to have disappeared herself, Reed explained, frustration evident in his voice. She left Lakewood a few months after Emily's disappearance. Her family lost touch with her years ago. The investigation hit another wall. Without Vanessa Miller, they had no way to identify the woman in the footage. The case stalled once again, the brief flare of hope diminishing to a familiar ember. Then came the article that changed everything. Detective Santos arrived at the Walker home unannounced one evening in May, clutching a printout from an entertainment magazine. "Have you seen this?" she asked, extending the paper toward Laura. The glossy page featured a striking woman with elegant features and penetrating eyes, her dark curls styled in a sophisticated updo. The headline read, "Sophia Morgan's Journey, From Foster Child to Cannes Darling. Laura scanned the article, unsure why the detective was showing her a piece about an actress she'd never heard of. Look at her left eyebrow, Santos urged. Laura squinted up the photo, then froze. There, partially concealed by makeup, but visible in the high-resolution image, was a small scar, identical to the one Emily had received from her bicycle accident. It could be a coincidence, Santos cautioned, seeing Laura's expression, but there are other similarities. Her age would be right. Sophia Morgan claims to be 28, though records of her early life are suspiciously sparse. She was reportedly raised in foster care after being found abandoned at age 10, with no identification and limited memory of her past. Laura couldn't tear her eyes from the photograph. There was something in the woman's eyes, the curve of her smile. Her first breakout role, Santos continued, was in an independent film called The Projector's Daughter, about a girl who grows up in a movie theater. David, who had been listening silently, suddenly stood. Where is she now? According to this, attending the Cannes Film Festival in France. Her film, Shadows of Memory, is nominated for several awards, including Best Actress. The coincidences were too striking to ignore. Reed expedited a request for information on Sophia Morgan's background, but preliminary searches revealed a carefully constructed narrative that began when she was placed in foster care in Connecticut in 1999, nearly a year after Emily disappeared. Before that, there's nothing, Reed explained during a conference call with the Walkers and Santos. No birth certificate, no school records, nothing that can be verified. Laura spent hours online, watching interviews with Sophia Morgan, studying her mannerisms, the way she tilted her head when considering a question, so reminiscent of Emily that it made her heart ache. In one interview, a reporter asked Sophia about her childhood influences.
"I don't remember much before foster care," she replied, her voice carrying a hint of practiced detachment. "But I've always felt drawn to stories, to cinema. Sometimes I think I was born in a movie theater." She laughed lightly, but something flickered in her eyes. Discomfort, perhaps, or a deeper emotion quickly masked. The FBI began building a case for a DNA comparison, but without direct access to Sophia Morgan, they needed to proceed carefully. A premature accusation against a rising Hollywood star would create a media firestorm and potentially destroy their investigation if they were wrong. Detective Reed arranged for an undercover officer to attend a charity gala in New York, where Sophia was scheduled to appear the following week. The officer's mission was simple: secure an item Sophia had touched or used from which DNA could be extracted. The plan worked. A champagne flute, carefully preserved by the officer, provided the sample they needed. Comparison with DNA the Walkers had provided years earlier during the initial investigation yielded the answer they had both hoped for and feared. Sophia Morgan was, with 99.9% certainty, Emily Walker. Laura collapsed when Reed delivered the news. 22 years of grief and uncertainty crashing through the careful walls she had built around her heart. David stood motionless, tears streaming down his face for the first time since the early days after Emily's disappearance. "She's alive," Laura whispered, the words both a prayer and a revelation. "Our baby is alive." The question now was how to proceed. The FBI advised caution. A public revelation could be traumatic for Sophia/Emily, especially if she had no memory of her early life or had been told a different story about her origins. "We need to approach her privately," Reed advised, away from cameras and the public eye. But fate intervened before they could implement this plan. At the Cannes Film Festival, Sophia Morgan stood on stage, radiant in a midnight blue gown adorned with silver accents reminiscent of stars, accepting the award for Best Actress. Her acceptance speech, delivered with poise and emotion, captured the attention of millions watching worldwide. "This film explores the fragility of memory and identity," she said, her voice steady as she held the golden statuette. Questions I've grappled with my entire life. When you don't know where you came from, you create your own story. Cinema gave me that gift, the ability to create myself when pieces of my past were missing. Among those watching was Caroline Weber, a journalist for the Boston Globe who had covered Emily's disappearance years earlier. The scar, the age, the references to missing memories, it triggered connections in Weber's mind that she couldn't ignore. She began researching, comparing childhood photos of Emily with images of Sophia, consulting with facial recognition experts who confirmed what she suspected. They were the same person. Weber approached Sophia's publicist with her findings, requesting an interview. The request was initially denied, but when Weber shared some of her evidence, a private meeting was hastily arranged. In a secured hotel suite in Cannes, Sophia Morgan, surrounded by her manager, publicist, and legal team, came face to face with photographs of a little girl in a Navy Star shirt smiling outside a small-town movie theater. "Do you recognize this child?" Weber asked gently. Sophia stared at the image, her carefully composed expression faltering. "Should I?" she asked, but her voice trembled slightly. Her name was Emily Walker. She disappeared from the Starlight Cinema in Lakewood, Pennsylvania, on June 13, 1998. She was 9 years old. Sophia's publicist intervened. "Ms. Morgan has been very open about her limited childhood memories. She entered foster care after being found alone and disoriented. This line of questioning is inappropriate and potentially harmful." But Sophia raised a hand, silencing her team. "I have dreams sometimes," she said slowly, "about a movie theater, dark red seats, a man who gives me candy." Her hand unconsciously touched the scar above her eyebrow. "I fell off my bike," she whispered, then looked up, startled by her own words. Weber nodded encouragingly. "Emily got that scar falling off her bike the summer before she disappeared." Sophia's manager demanded the interview end, but she refused. "I need to know," she insisted, a new determination in her voice. "I've always needed to know." The story broke the following day, not through Weber's article, which she had agreed to delay, but through a carefully worded statement from Sophia Morgan's team. Recent evidence has come to light suggesting a connection between Miss Morgan and a child who disappeared from Pennsylvania in 1998. Miss Morgan is cooperating with authorities to determine the truth of these claims and requests privacy during this deeply personal investigation. The media explosion was immediate and overwhelming. Reporters descended on Lakewood. The Walkers' phone rang constantly. Theories proliferated online: kidnapping, amnesia, voluntary disappearance, elaborate hoax. The truth, when it finally emerged, was both simpler and more complex than any speculation. DNA testing officially confirmed what the preliminary tests had indicated. Sophia Morgan was Emily Walker. With this confirmation, she agreed to meet with Detectives Reed and Santos in a private location in New York, away from the press. "I don't remember much," she admitted, her composure occasionally slipping to reveal the turmoil beneath. "I've had therapy for years trying to recover memories from before I was found." What she did remember came in fragments: the theater, the princess movie, needing to use the bathroom, a woman in a uniform telling her something urgent about her mother. "She said my mom had been taken to the hospital suddenly, that she was a friend and would take me to her," Sophia recalled, her brow furrowed with the effort of retrieving the distant memory. "I went with her willingly. I was worried about my mom." The woman, whom authorities now believed to be Vanessa Miller, had driven Emily to a bus station in Philadelphia. From there, the trail had gone cold in their investigation, but Sophia's fractured memories continued the story. "She told me my name was Sophia, that my parents had died in an accident, and she was taking me to relatives in Connecticut." Sophia's voice grew distant. "I remember crying for days. She gave me pills that made me sleepy. When I asked about my parents, she would get angry, tell me I was confused, that I'd had a head injury, and my memories weren't real."
By the time they reached Connecticut, Emily had been thoroughly disoriented, a combination of manipulation, medication, and the natural malleability of a child's mind. Vanessa had abandoned her near a shopping center, where she was found wandering alone, unable to clearly articulate who she was or where she came from. The authorities assumed I was a neglected child, Sophia explained. When no one claimed me and I couldn't provide consistent information about my background, I entered the foster system. The investigation into Vanessa Miller intensified. Records showed she had left the Starlight Cinema abruptly, claiming a family emergency. She had withdrawn completely from Lakewood Community College, where she had been studying theater. Her family reported that she had always been troubled, obsessed with acting, but without the talent to succeed. She wanted to be someone else, her estranged sister told investigators. She was always playing characters, living in fantasies. The working theory developed that Vanessa, fixated on Emily's natural talent and creativity, had abducted her in a delusional attempt to create a new life for them both, perhaps as a mother-daughter pair or as mentor and protege.
When the reality of her actions set in, she abandoned Emily rather than face consequences. Vanessa Miller herself remained elusive. Her last known location was Toronto in 2010, where she had worked briefly as a drama teacher under an assumed name. International authorities joined the search, but the trail had gone cold. For Sophia, the revelations triggered a cascade of recovered memories and emotions. Working with specialists in trauma and memory, she began the painful process of reconciling her two identities, the lost child Emily and the successful actress Sophia. "It's like discovering I'm a character in someone else's story," she confided to Detective Santos. "Everything I thought I knew about myself is being rewritten." The most difficult question remained. Would she meet the Walkers, the parents she couldn't remember, but who had never stopped searching for her? After careful consideration and preparation with psychologists, Sophia agreed to a private meeting at a neutral location in New York. The FBI arranged the logistics, ensuring absolute privacy. Laura and David arrived first, waiting in a comfortably furnished room at a secure government building. When the door finally opened and Sophia stepped through, time seemed to fold in on itself. The sophisticated actress in designer clothing momentarily transformed before Laura's eyes into the little girl in a star shirt. "Emily," Laura whispered, her voice breaking on the name. Sophia stood frozen, studying their faces with an intensity that suggested she was searching for something. Recognition, connection, the missing pieces of herself. "I don't remember you," she said finally, her voice gentle but honest. "I'm sorry." David nodded, fighting to maintain composure. "We understand. We're just so grateful you're alive, that you're here." The conversation that followed was hesitant, emotional, punctuated by long silences and occasional tears. Sophia asked questions about her childhood, studying photographs the Walkers had brought. They, in turn, learned about her journey, the challenges of foster care, her discovery of acting in high school, the scholarship to NYU's drama program, her gradual rise through independent films to international acclaim. "I always felt drawn to stories about lost children, about people searching for identity," Sophia explained. "Now I understand why." When Laura tentatively asked if she might hug her, Sophia nodded. The embrace was awkward at first, then melted into something profound, a connection that transcended memory. "Your favorite color was purple," Laura murmured against her hair. "You hated peas. You could recite entire scenes from movies after watching them once." Sophia pulled back, her eyes wide. "I still can," she said with wonder. "My directors always comment on it, how I never need cue cards, how I can memorize pages overnight." It was the first of many connections they would discover, talents, preferences, and traits that had survived the rupture of her past. Sophia's artistic ability, her intuitive understanding of character and emotion, her love of storytelling, all seeds planted in Emily Walker's childhood that had flourished in Sophia Morgan's career.
As the initial shock faded, practical questions emerged. Would Sophia maintain her professional identity? Would she reconnect with the Walkers beyond this meeting? How would they all navigate the media interest in their extraordinary story? "I need time," Sophia acknowledged. "This changes everything, but I'm still processing what it means for my future." The Walkers assured her they understood, that they would respect whatever boundaries she needed. "We've waited 22 years, David said. "We can wait longer if that's what you need." In the weeks that followed, Sophia withdrew from public appearances, canceling interviews and declining new projects. Through her representatives, she requested privacy during what was described as a period of personal recalibration. Privately, she began tentative steps toward reconnection, phone calls with Laura and David, carefully reviewing photo albums and home videos from her childhood, visiting Lakewood under tight security to see her former home and school. Standing outside the now abandoned Starlight Cinema, its marquee long dark and windows boarded, Sophia experienced her most powerful memory flashback. The excitement of movie nights, the smell of popcorn, Mr. Grayson's kindly face as he handed her chocolate-covered raisins. "I loved this place," she said softly to Laura, who had accompanied her. "It was magical to me." The investigation into Vanessa Miller continued, though with diminishing momentum as years passed. The statute of limitations had not expired for the kidnapping, but without Vanessa herself, the case remained technically open, but practically unsolvable. 6 months after the revelation of her identity, Sophia Morgan returned to public life with a carefully orchestrated interview on a major network. Watched by millions, she spoke candidly about discovering her true identity, the fragmented memories she continued to recover, and her ongoing relationship with the Walkers. "I'm still Sophia," she explained thoughtfully. "That identity is real. It's who I became, who I built myself to be. But I'm also learning about Emily, integrating those lost pieces into my understanding of myself. It's not about choosing between them, but about becoming whole." Her next film project, which she both starred in and directed, told the story of a woman discovering her own kidnapping through recovered memories, a fictionalized but emotionally authentic exploration of her experience. The film, titled Remembered Light, earned her a second Cannes Award, this time for directing. At the premiere, Laura and David Walker walked the red carpet alongside her, a family reunited against impossible odds. Photographers captured the moment Sophia, radiant in a gown reminiscent of a night sky, introduced them to the crowd. "My parents, who never stopped looking for me." The Lakewood community celebrated the resolution of their longest-standing mystery with mixed emotions: joy at Emily's survival and success, sadness for the lost years, and lingering questions about how such a thing could happen in their close-knit town. The old Starlight Cinema building, which had stood vacant for years, was purchased by a foundation established by Sophia. It was renovated and reopened as an arts center for children, with programs in filmmaking, acting, and visual arts. A small museum in the lobby told Emily's story, alongside resources for families of missing children and child safety education. "Cinema gave me my first dreams," Sophia explained at the center's opening, "and in a strange way, it gave me back to myself. I want other children to find their voices through storytelling, to discover who they are through art." Laura and David relocated to New York, where they could be closer to Sophia while respecting her independent life. The relationship evolved gradually, sometimes awkward, sometimes overwhelmingly emotional, but always moving toward deeper understanding. "I'm not the 9-year-old you lost," Sophia told them during a quiet dinner at her Manhattan apartment, "and you're not the parents I would have known if I'd grown up with you. But we're finding each other now, creating something new." For Detective James Reed, the resolution of Emily Walker's case became the defining achievement of his career. At his retirement ceremony, he reflected on the persistence that had finally yielded results. "Never give up," he advised the younger officers. "Evidence can surface decades later. Witnesses can come forward when you least expect it. Technology evolves, and sometimes miracles happen. The story of Emily Walker and Sophia Morgan became more than a sensational headline or true crime fascination.
It evolved into a testament to resilience, to the endurance of identity even when memory fails, and to the possibility of healing after profound loss. Sophia herself perhaps expressed it best in the closing monologue of Remembered Light, words that resonated with audiences worldwide. We are not just the stories we remember, but also the ones we've forgotten. The light finds ways to reach us, even through the darkest places. Sometimes we lose ourselves, only to discover we were never really gone, just waiting in another life to be found again. In Lakewood, the Arts Center thrives, bearing a simple plaque that encapsulates the extraordinary journey. For Emily, who disappeared but was never lost. For Sophia, who found her way home through a different door. And for everyone still searching, may you find your light. The mystery that began in a small-town movie theater on a summer night in 1998 transformed into something no screenplay could have predicted. A story not of tragedy, but of rebirth. A reminder that even in cases that seem hopeless, resolution can come in unexpected forms, bringing not just answers, but new beginnings. And in quiet moments, when Sophia Morgan stands before audiences to accept accolades for her work, those who know her story can sometimes glimpse, beneath the poised exterior of the acclaimed actress, the shadow of a 9-year-old girl in a Navy Star shirt, who once dreamed of bringing stories to life, and ultimately, against all odds, did exactly that.